You've seen the gym selfies, the 25-year-olds flexing for the algorithm, the influencers with their protein shakes and their grind culture content. Social media has made us think that peak physicality belongs to the young. But what if everything we've been told about age in the human body is wrong? Right now, there are grandmothers, actual grandmothers with grandchildren at home, who are stepping onto IFBB pro stages, lifting weights that would humble most men in their 30s, and winning world championships. Not in some master's side category, in the real thing. Today we're looking at 8 women who didn't just refuse to slow down, they kept accelerating. And by the time you reach the last name on this list, you're going to want to close your laptop and go to the gym. Number 1. Paloma Parra. Meet Paloma Parra, an IFBB pro athlete from Madrid, Spain, who is currently 58 years old, a mother, a grandmother, and one of the most physically impressive women in competitive bodybuilding today. By day, she heads the export department at a nutrition company called Nutritage. She's also a certified personal trainer and fitness coach. But her story didn't start in a gym. Far from it. Before fitness, Paloma was an athlete in every other sense of the word. She played semi-professional football and baseball, trained in Thai boxing, and competed in rugby. Rugby is what first brought her to the weight room. Standing 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighing just 45 kilos, about 99 pounds, she was too lean to play effectively, and her coaches pushed her to build muscle, especially in her legs. That need sparked everything. From the moment she started lifting seriously, she never stopped. She now bench presses 92 kilos for 10 reps and squats 140 kilos, that's 308 pounds, also for 10 reps. Yes, she's 58. Her physique has one very distinctive feature. Her shoulders and arms are noticeably larger relative to the rest of her body, a legacy of decades of upper body sport. To keep her arms and shoulders from growing too dominant on stage, she actually trains them with lighter weights using supersets. Her favorite exercise? The squat, still building those legs she once struggled to fill out. Paloma entered competitive bodybuilding in 2017. She started slowly, placing in the middle of the pack, but she kept showing up. And now, after over 12 competitions, she's a 3-time IFBB world champion, and proof that the best chapter of your fitness life might not start until your 50s. Number 2. Melanie Horton. Now meet Melanie Horton. She's a Canadian IFBB pro who goes by one title on social media, the world's most shredded mom. And when you see her, that title doesn't feel like an exaggeration. Melanie carries a lean, sculpted look, the kind of physique most people in their 20s would envy. But here's what makes it remarkable. Melanie is closing in on 60 years old, and she's actually smaller than she used to be. Go back 2 decades, and you'd see a much more massive version of Melanie, arms and shoulders that, by 1990 standards, were genuinely shocking on a woman. In 1998, she entered the CBBF Canadian National Bodybuilding Championships as an amateur and won the overall title, earning her IFBB Pro card in the process. She turned pro the very next year, in 1999, and competed on the professional stage. Then life happened. She stepped away from competition for 15 years, but she came back to the stage, already past 45, in a sport that is ruthless about conditioning and ruthless about age. She not only came back, she kept improving. As recently as 2024, she was still competing at the IFBB Pro level, placing 3rd at the Vancouver Island Showdown Pro, and stepping on stage again at the Toronto Pro Super Show. She's a mom, she coaches other athletes, and she's proving, competition after competition, that the women the world writes off for being too old are quietly out-muscling men half their age. Number 3. Leslie Maxwell. Now it's time to meet the woman who, by some definitions, is the most inspiring of them all. Leslie Maxwell is 65 years old. She's a grandmother of 3. She lives in Melbourne, Australia. And right now, she is in better shape than most men half her age. What makes Leslie's story different isn't the size of her arms. It's the timing of her start. Paloma came from a lifetime of sport. Melanie had been competing since her 20s. Leslie, she didn't set foot in a weight room with any real intention until she was 48 years old. Before fitness, she was a makeup artist. She wasn't an athlete. In her own words, she felt weak, carried an asthma pump everywhere, struggled with low blood sugar, and described herself as occasionally frail. But at 48, something shifted. She started lifting weights, and just 1 year later, she entered her first bodybuilding competition. She was so nervous, she didn't even tell her family, afraid they'd think she'd lost her mind. She didn't just survive the experience, she won. To date, Leslie has competed in over 30 bodybuilding and figure competitions and won over 30 titles, including the U.S. Figure 1 NBF World title in New York, representing Australia. She's also a certified personal trainer with over 15,000 hours of client sessions, a published author, and a regular on the cover of Oxygen magazine, Australia. She says she feels more confident in her body at 65 than she did at 30. And when people ask what her secret is, she gives the same answer every time. Weight training, not cardio, not fasting, lifting weights, eating clean, and never telling yourself it's too late to start. Leslie Maxwell started at 48. She's 65 now, and she's still not done. Number 4, Maurice Manos. From Australia, we cross the Atlantic to France, and to a woman whose story could have been written as a movie. Meet Maurice Manos. Born on July 6, 1960, in Lens, northern France. She is 64 years old and one of the pioneers of professional female bodybuilding in her country. Her journey into fitness didn't begin with dreams of a stage or a trophy. In the mid-1980s, after the birth of her daughter, Maurice simply wanted to stay in shape. She started with fitness and aerobics, fell in love with the energy of it, and soon became an aerobics instructor. But the weight room kept calling her name. By the early 1990s, she had transitioned into weightlifting, not chasing a physique, just building one. In 1994, on what she describes as more of a dare than a plan, Maurice entered her very first regional bodybuilding competition. She won it. That single win rewired everything. She came back the very next year, determined. In 1995, she won the French Bodybuilding Championship, then again in 1996, then again in 1998. 3 national titles, competing against women years, sometimes decades, younger than her. She earned her IFBB Pro card in 2005 and spent the next decade competing on international professional stages across the US and Europe, including the prestigious Rising Phoenix World Championships in 2018, one of the most elite women's bodybuilding events on the planet. She is now 64 years old, she is a grandmother, and she is still competing. Number 5, Laura Benetti. Every country has its legends. Canada has Laura Benetti. Born on March 6, 1965, in Toronto, Ontario, Laura is now 60 years old, and she holds a distinction that no other Canadian woman can claim. She is the only Canadian female bodybuilder to have ever won the IFBB World Championship title. Read that again. In the entire history of Canadian women's bodybuilding, she is the one. Standing 5 feet 4 inches, Laura's career began in the amateur ranks in the mid-1980s. By 1987, she was winning Eastern Canadian Championships. By 1988, she was a Canadian national champion. By 1989, she was representing Canada on the international stage at the IFBB World Amateur Championships. The wins kept coming in 3 different countries. In 1994, she won the Grand Prix Canada. In 1996, she took the Grand Prix Prague in Europe. And in 1999, she claimed the crown that would define her legacy, the IFBB Women's Pro World Championships, world champion. Throughout her career, she appeared at the Arnold Classic 5 times and the Ms. Olympia 5 times, competing at the absolute highest level women's bodybuilding has to offer. After her world championship win, Laura retired and built her fitness consulting business, Body by Benetti, serving professional athletes, national champions, and everyday people across North America. At 60, she is still active, still coaching, and still one of the most respected figures the sport has ever produced. Number 6, Lisa Krauss. Some people talk about being dedicated to the sport, and then there's Lisa Krauss. Born in December 1963 in Palmerton Township, Pennsylvania, Lisa is now 61 years old, stands 5 feet tall, and competes in the figure division, one of the most demanding physique categories on the IFBB Pro circuit. She earned her IFBB Pro card in 2018 and has been making up for lost time ever since. Think about what her days look like during competition prep. Pre-dawn cardio before school, a full day of work as a school administrator, evening training sessions after hours, 6 carefully prepared meals on Sundays for the whole week ahead. And she did this while holding a Bachelor of Arts, a Master's in Education, and certifications as both a principal and supervisor of instruction. Her competitive resume spans some of the most prestigious shows in American bodybuilding, including the IFBB Atlantic Coast Pro, where she placed third, as recently as November 2024. But perhaps the most remarkable moment in her career came in 2020. Facing a serious health scare, Lisa underwent major surgery and just 12 days later stepped onto the competition stage, still bruised, covered in extra layers of competition tan to hide the marks. She walked out and competed anyway. Not because she had to, because that's who she is. After retiring from the classroom, Lisa launched Lisa K Posing and Fitness, coaching competitive athletes and first-time stage competitors, specializing in posing, prep, and the mindset it takes to keep showing up. At 61, she's still competing at the pro level, still coaching, still standing on stage, proving that the women most people underestimate are often the ones most worth watching. Number 7. Christina Imbronone Ward. Her social media bio says it all. IFBB pro bodybuilder. Grandma who likes to pick up heavy things. That's Christina Imbronone Ward. Around 60 years old, living in Greenwood, Arkansas, and walking around with a physique that most gym goers half her age couldn't dream of building. Christina didn't enter the NPC competitive circuit until well into her 50s. She wasn't a lifelong gym rat. She wasn't a former athlete who never really left the sport. She came to competitive bodybuilding late and then proceeded to beat women across the country to earn one of the most coveted cards in American fitness. In December 2019, at the NPC Masters USA Championships, Christina won first place in women's physique, and with it, her IFBB Pro card. She was already in her mid to late 50s. In a sport where most athletes earn their pro credentials in their 20s or 30s, she was just getting started. Once she had that pro card, Christina went right back to work. She's competed at the NPC North American Championships, the NPC Teen Collegiate and Masters Nationals, and continued racking up placements well into her late 50s. She calls herself Country Strong, a nod to the no-frills, no-excuses work ethic that defines her approach to training. She picks up heavy things, she shows up, she competes, and she does all of this as a grandmother. Number 8, Emory Miller. And finally, Emory Miller. Born October 3, 1964, in Downey, California, she's 60 years old, stands 5 feet 2 inches, and her path to the IFBB Pro stage might be the most dramatic origin story on this entire list. Emory didn't grow up athletic. She grew up scrawny, with a heart murmur, and spent years battling compulsive overeating. By the time she and her husband Patrick recognized the problem, they were both clinically obese, Patrick at 302 pounds, Emory at 188 pounds, with 38% body fat. They decided to transform together. The tool they chose? Bodybuilding. Between the two of them, they lost approximately 250 pounds. And Emory didn't just get healthy, she got competitive. She entered her first NPC show in 2001 and earned her IFBB Pro card just 3 years later, in 2004, at the NPC National Championships. She did it with a heart condition. She did it in 3 years. She did it in her late 30s and has been competing at the professional level ever since. She went on to compete at the IFBB Tampa Pro, the Chicago Pro, and the Toronto Super Show, among others. Her career has spanned 2 decades on the pro circuit. Emory Miller didn't start from strength. She started from the bottom and built everything you see from scratch. 7 women, 7 different countries, 7 different starting points, 7 different paths, and one thing in common. None of them let age become an excuse. Paloma was 45 before she ever stepped on a bodybuilding stage. Leslie was 48 before she touched a weight with real intention. Christina was deep into her 50s before she earned her pro card. And every single one of them is still going. The fitness world spends a lot of time telling you what's too late. These women spent decades proving it wrong, 1 rep at a time. If this video hit different, drop a like. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. And if someone in your life needs to hear that it's not too late, share this with them. We'll see you in the next one.